Ghanatube so na we share number 1 channel and news so any day epa e wo man ni yeko ni akohwe na papa na so na ya bam no mahu na mate nsem a ekoso any day epa e wo man ni na emom no nsem ni bi ebeto dwa na edu ehye de man say ya ebetena so na yaka e di amamonti resum so mo ko hwetie nsem a ekoso any day eba e wo man ni ba na yaka won ebeso so e di ama ya hwefo.
Coming up next, the national president has been talking, and that's Gate called for a reconsideration of the suspension of Ghanatube Tokono. That's coming up next here on Ghana Tonight as Chief Justice, noting it sets a bad precedent in the country. Stay with us. This is matter that we're getting into right here on Ghana Tonight. And while at it, earlier today, woman you just president, national president of the Ghana Bar Association, indicating that there should be a reconsideration of the suspension of her ladyship, Justice Ghanatube Tokono, as Chief Justice, while this process of her hearing is ongoing. Well, she gave reasons for that, indicating that this entire process sets a bad precedent. These are the words of the national president of the Ghana Bar Association. Take a look.
They stand for justice, and they should administer justice to all persons, including themselves. We are confident that in the spirit of reconciliation, all the various calls made for a reconsideration of the suspension of the Chief Justice in the circumstances as it sets a poor precedent will not go unheeded. We yearn for peace and strive for justice.
Well, she was not alone in commenting about the suspended Chief Justice matter. Kwabena Japan, one-time presidential, that's a flag bearer hopeful of the NPP, also had this to say, indicated that what he has seen and what he has heard, the details of the petitions against the Chief Justice are, in his view, minor, and doesn't necessarily warrant a decision to suspend her. Take a look at this.
These are very minor infractions that should not occasion the removal of a person so important in the governance of our country. And you're not careful, it may constitute a certain assault on the judiciary, which we all a day like this reminds us of. So it's something that is worrying. I pray and hope that he listens to the appeal made by the Ghana Bar Association, because for me this.
Well, so that's the position as espoused by Kwabena Japan there, and there's been a number of reactions to this as well, and how this matter is actually playing out, and especially with those who have raised fundamental questions about the position of the Ghana Bar Association. Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner, is going to be joining me in a bit. All these two persons you just heard, they made the call at the 43rd anniversary remembrance service of the 3 High Court judges who were murdered in 1982. And today being the Martyrs' Day and the reflections on the day and the demands going forward. Shortly, we'll be joined by Martin Pebo, who's going to be sharing his thoughts with us on this particular matter here on Ghana Tonight. We're also live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and on DSTV channel 279.
They stand for justice, and they should administer justice to all persons, including themselves. We are confident that in the spirit of reconciliation, all the various calls made for a reconsideration of the suspension of the Chief Justice in the circumstances as it sets a poor precedent will not go unheeded. We yearn for peace and strive for justice.
Well, that's the national president. Welcome back to Ghana Tonight, and that's the national president of the Ghana Bar Association there. Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. Thankfully, he's joining us on Zoom right now. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us. First off, that's the position, in fact, the proposal by the Ghana Bar Association that in their word.
For any for and some are so any the airport or my menu and our so egusu are with young queen, young with ye at also.
The words of the national president, there should be a reconsideration or the decision to suspend the Chief Justice should be reviewed, stressing that it sets a poor precedent, essentially. Is it one that, from where you sit, can be considered in this context as was put earlier today?
Yes. So it's adding on. Yes, it's adding on to the voices that we should, but you see, there's a digression, actually. There are divergence of views. So just reconsider the suspension, meaning the Chief Justice should come and continue. That one, I disagree. If it is lifting the suspension, like Kweku Ansah, former director of the law school, said under Article 146(11), so that the Chief Justice will be allowed to resign, yes. But if GBA is saying lift the suspension so that she would come back and continue as CJ, no, that one I disagree with the GBA. You see, the GBA should not play ostrich. Even the Chief Justice referred to the petition and sought to answer the petition. And you see how she was answering, you see that there is also the other side. Daniel Ofori and the other people also have the right to respond, but because of the constitutional injunction in Article 146 Clause 8, that the proceedings should be held in camera, which the Supreme Court has interpreted in the Paul Derry case versus Anas, Tiger PI, that's Anas Arimiyao Anas's company, that it includes even the petition, etc. That's keeping all of those in secret. You know, we cannot. That's how come the Daniel Ofori, etc. will not respond. Okay, yes. Otherwise, they would have responded. So what I'm saying in a nutshell is that from the Chief Justice's own answer, it tells you that there is a case for proper investigation, because you see, she spent about 47 minutes in the press conference talking about this, and that's even a summary. So the more she talked, then the more it told you that the cases were complex, so they needed proper investigations, as the committee is doing now. So to say that lift the suspension, let Chief Justice Tokonu return to office, I think the GBA was playing ostrich. GBA was playing ostrich. It's not necessary. See, such populism is not good for our democracy. It's not good. I don't support that one. The one I support is that if the suspension will be lifted and then she would resign. So I'm saying that, notwithstanding that I know 3 of the Supreme Court decisions that say that once the proceedings begin, a person who is responding cannot be allowed to resign. Yes, I'm also saying that at the time the Supreme Court made that rule, they never contemplated that there would be a Chief Justice who would fight back openly like this. Because trust me, the press conference Chief Justice Tokonu held, it's not the last. She would come again, most likely, from a previous conduct, utterances, etc. She will come again. She's likely to come again and come. So, and you see, with the way she's putting out the case in the media, yet the committee cannot respond, it's actually hurting our judiciary and ipso facto our democracy. So why should we continue to sacrifice the democratic gains we've made just to be able to, let's say, go through a full trial? No, sometimes it's better we cut our losses and allow the person to resign. Perhaps it can be a rule that, certain rules can be made. I think the more people join in that, well, notwithstanding 3 Supreme Court decisions about not allowing somebody going through Article 146 proceedings to resign, perhaps it's possible to make an exception so that we can save our democracy. Because right now, I'm not sure anybody is happy with the press conference and the outcomes and the conversation it is generated and so on and so forth.
Right, but Counsel, so earlier when I spoke to the head of public relations for the Ghana Bar Association, Xavier Koji, he indicated, yes, they are not against the process as it's playing out because it is constitutional. In Article 1466 to 10, as we are seeing playing out now, leading to the suspension of the Chief Justice. Association says is that this is setting a dangerous and poor precedent, essentially.
The petitions with the details, but it's leaked. Most of us have read. Yes, that is that are stated in there.
No chance. For I some I so any the airport or my no and I was so egusu with young quem, young near a
so I'm surprised the GBA wants to play to the gallery. Look at what the very things that the Chief Justice, mentioned. The very things that she mentioned and sought to answer, and even by going, wading into other uncharted territories that were not even made part of the petition, where she even said that she's never taken a bribe, and you see, it's created a lot of disquiet among judges, because then you see that others have come to say she's interpreting that some judges are taking bribes, etc. Then you see that it's even further created trouble, where people have then also raised the contract to her daughter. That how did her daughter get a contract to do decor for her office? You see the Pandora's box she's opening, etc. So I think the GBA is not being fair to Ghanaians when they say the suspension creates a dangerous precedent. They should read and see the other extensions, especially when the matter of the daughter's contract is mentioned. You see it, because she brought it in by saying she's never been taking a bribe, etc. Then people are saying, but your daughter's contract, how did she get a contract to do decor in your own office? I mean, how? You see it, and there are more that people have just chosen not to speak about. And so the GBA should spare Ghanaians this play to the gallery. It's not healthy for our democracy. It's not healthy. Let's be very objective. You see, certain parts of the petition that we think we should give her support, you see that I have not been shy to say so openly. For example, I've said that I support that she should be allowed to go in with at least 2 relatives, right, to give her emotional support. Then also the question of the prima facie ruling that she says she hasn't received a copy of. I'm sure something can be done. It should be released to her. So you see that these are things that I think, yes, of course the Supreme Court has held failure to give a detailed prima facie ruling by itself cannot nullify the case. But because even as far back as over 20 years ago, this same matter came up in the Chachuchikata case, and the Supreme Court said yes, failure to give prima facie case doesn't nullify the case, but it is desirable. It helps, you see, for transparency. Remember that, transparency, because you remember they tell you that justice not only ought to be done, but ought manifestly to be seen to be done. You see, it has to be clear. The manner in which justice is done has to be very clear to everybody. You see, so you see 2 things I've been able to mention that yes, if she was given these 2 facilities, the ruling for the prima facie, and also if she was allowed to go in with 2 relations, it can be friends. I mean, 2 persons of her choosing to give her support, it would help. You see the process. So you see things like that have been objective. But for the GBA to just say that it will set a dangerous precedent without addressing the matters in the petition that Chief Justice Tokono has addressed, I think it's rather, the GBA is rather a dangerous precedent for our democracy, because a GBA that would not do legal analysis but would hang on to playing on to the gallery is not a GBA that is good for our democracy. Rather, such a GBA is a dangerous organization for our democracy.
Well, so you reference the details of the of the petitions, which you've been consistent that you don't want to go into the details of it. Comrade J. Japan referenced what he has heard and read, and he says that the issues he's heard and read about the petition, the details of it against the Chief Justice, are minor, and in his view, minor of infractions that should not necessarily warrant the suspension of the Chief Justice as we're having now. I want to take a listen to him, and I'll ask you questions on the basis of that. Take a look.
These are very minor infractions that should not occasion the removal of a person so important in the governance of our country. And you're not careful, it may constitute a certain assault on the judiciary, which we all, a day like this reminds us of. So it's something that is worrying. I pray and hope that he listens to the appeal made by the Ghana Bar Association, because for me this...
So Martin Bebo, there you have it. So, per his own analysis, as Comrade Japan says, what is heard and read, the gravamen of the issues are minor. That should necessarily lead to a suspension. I mean, how do you then get into? Is there any measurement to, as it were, determine the gravamen of the issues so as to then conclude that it is minor, essentially?
I don't agree at all. So once again, I'll not go into the merits, but because a lot of viewers and listeners have read the petition, so they will know these are very weighty matters, very, very weighty. I mean, yeah, I understand that in a democracy, we should have a plurality of voices. Yes, plurality of voices, divergent opinions, etc. But please, those matters that are in the petitions are very serious matters. So we shouldn't, sweep them under the carpet and begin to play politics. It's not good. That's rather not good for our democracy. Let's be, as objective as possible. So you see mine. I've been objective. I've shown you what I think can be done to improve. And I've been consistent from day one. I've been consistent that no, let the relations, two persons come, even if they are not relations and or friends that she chooses. Two, give her the prima facie ruling. It doesn't hurt anything, you see. So I've been objective. But when it comes to the substance of the petitions, for anybody to say these are minor, is that the same Comrade J. Japan who wants to be a presidential candidate for Ghana?
Yes. That he once contested the flag bearership of the NPP. There hasn't been any clear indication whether he's going to contest again. But yes, he wanted to be flag bearer of the NPP. Council.
J. Japan wants to be president of Ghana with these kind of opinions. Then his presidential bid is dead on arrival because nobody will take him serious if this is how he's going to start his campaign. No one will take him serious. Yeah.
Well, much people appreciate your time on this. I thank you very much for joining us here with your thoughts on this matter. And this is a rolling stone that is obviously going to gather a lot of dust as we're going on. I thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, Martin Pebo.